Welcome to MakerCast episode 9. I'm your
Hello.
host,
Hello.
Bill and Hickey. Tonight we've got a great bunch of makers. We've got the Seon, the unexpected maker. And I had to unmute that. We have bitluni, bitluni's lab. We've got Aaron, the Seon, the unexpected maker. We've got Arturo. And lastly, we've got a special guest, Jeri Ellsworth. I'll let everyone introduce themselves. We've got Arturo.
There is something.
Another echo going on.
Please mute your screen.
Is that better?
It's
Yep.
silent now.
Yeah.
It could have gotten interesting there for a while.
So I'll let everyone introduce themselves. So Seon, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Seon, Unexpected Maker from Melbourne, Australia. I am kind of a generalized maker. I like working with all sorts of stuff, laser cutters, 3D printers, but I guess I focus a lot on electronics and mostly digital side, and I'm spending a lot of time designing microcontroller boards and stuff at the moment.
bitluni?
So I'm bitluni from bitluni's lab, and I'm doing also maker projects, electronics, coding, and maybe a little bit welding in the recent time, and LED stuff, something like that.
Cool. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm Aaron. I am kind of a maker, but more into hacking stuff, so changing its behavior and something like this. So I don't really publish much making stuff, more achievements in hacking. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Arturo, who's a new guest.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Arthur, on the internet known as Arturo182. And I usually design boards, more hardware than software, and not really hack on things, more creating stuff. So yeah.
Cool. And Jeri?
I'm Jeri Ellsworth. I have a YouTube channel called Jeri Ellsworth. It's super original, where I do everything from electronics to hardcore science. So you just never know what you're going to see on my channel. Severely neglected lately, so posted a couple of videos recently, and people were flipping out that I had come back to the channel.
Excellent. Good to see. I'm Colin Hickey. I do a bit of a mixture, a lot of things dedicated around my children, electronics projects, gadgets and toys. Also do a bit of woodworking and other things, just currently building a solar-powered playhouse, which is full of gadgets for them, and that's going to feature a few projects coming up on the channel soon. Some things like locks and different bits and pieces and things. So that's myself. So if we go around the table, as it were, to see what we've been up to the past month. So if we keep the sort of same order there, Seon, if you want to jump in and update us on what you've been up to
Yeah, sure. So I guess, my last month or so, apart from obviously building more tiny picos, I've been finally putting together my Pro S2 board, which is not going to focus. Oh, well, anyway, so this is my new ESP32 S2 development board. Yeah, sorry about the focus there. It's using the new Espressive S2 chip that isn't out yet. But that's pretty cool. So this is kind of like going to be my next probably product. Hopefully it'll come out at the end of the year. And I've also been working on my little Tiny Pico Nano. Oh, focusing is terrible. Sorry. Let's see if I can get this to autofocus. Probably not, but anyway, we'll try. So there's my Tiny Pico, and then this is my little Tiny Pico Nano, and that's not going to focus. So anyway, I've been spinning up some new revisions of those. I've got some new boards on the way. I've also been finally working on some other maker projects that have been sitting in the back burner for a while. I can't wait to. That's a project I started 7 months ago, and only finally just got a chance to get back onto it. And I'm currently designing some 3D printing and laser cutting projects because I feel like I've been neglecting those for a while as well. So yeah, trying to be catch up on all of the outstanding things that have been I guess, you know, sitting on the shelf, talking to me in the back of my ear saying, finish me, finish me. That's pretty much it. Yeah, just lots of PCB design and stuff.
Are you resupplying Adafruit? I think they were sold out, weren't they, your boards?
They've actually now sold out twice, which is really cool. Both of them were small orders. But yeah, I believe that they're hopefully, or I'm hoping that they're going to be putting in a larger order. So just to, yeah, all of my, so I'm working with Crowd Supply still. And so Crowd Supply are dealing with all the resellers. So I'm not like supplying Adafruit directly. It's all happening via Crowd Supply, which means that I'm not really privy to all the conversations. Like, I know who they're talking to, and but I don't know what the timings are. I don't really know what people are ordering. So
do you know how many are sold?
Not really. No, I mean, I know how many I've sold, right? I mean, I know how many I've sold to Crowd Supply and how many I'm selling like direct. But in terms of the quantities that the resellers are buying, I don't really know. I mean, I can ask. Actually, it's funny. I actually asked Crowd Supply the other day. I said, do many of your project, creators go into this much detail with you guys, when it comes to reselling and stuff? Or am I the only pain in the ass? And they said, yeah, you're pretty much the only pain in the ass that goes into all of this detail. But I guess for me, like, it's really important that, like, I want all resellers selling at the same price. I want everyone to have the same experience when they buy, like, Tiny Picos. I don't mind where someone buys one from. Like, if they buy it from Adafruit, if they buy it from Crowd Supply or from me or for any other reseller, I want to make sure that everyone has the same experience and everyone gets the same quality and everyone pays the same price, and you know what I mean? So I'm spending a lot of time trying to make sure that happens with Crowd Supply, probably more than other people would have. And I'm even like currently, renegotiating my pricing with Crowd Supply to allow them to have better ability to get the boards into more places. So, yeah, like, it's been a really, like, it was a massive learning curve in terms of manufacturing, and now it's a massive learning curve in terms of really understanding distribution and supply, and like, now I'm doing third-party customer service. Like, I'm supporting resellers as well as supporting end users. So, but it's been great. It's been a really exciting journey. I'm willing to even do it again with my S2 boards. So there you go.
Did you apply for the Hackaday prize?
No. I didn't even have time to read what the application stuff was at the time. I was too buried building boards. So no, I didn't. But oh well, maybe next year. Yeah.
I saw you repurposed your PNP and made someone else's boards as well.
I did, yeah. Adam Kia came over and I was building his Pico audio board, which is a pretty high-end audio board. And that was really cool. It's got like 80 parts on it or something. It's pretty crazy. Unfortunately for me, I still haven't reloaded my pick and place machine for Tiny Pico parts, because I've got, 30 parts to reload, and I know it's going to take me like 2 days to load it and recalibrate it. And I've been putting it off. I've got 2 buckets of parts.
I was going to say that was brave, because I know it took you so long to get to the point where it was working, as intended at the right speed and everything, just for your boards, and then.
Sure. Well, I mean, I know it's still tuned for my boards. That's fine. It's just a matter of reloading them. It's just fiddly because the parts are so small. I got to spew through quite a lot of 0402 parts until I got them lined up again perfectly for the pickup head. It's not going to be hard. I've just been putting it off, but I think I'm down to like my last 6 Tiny Picos, and if I don't reload it soon and start making more, I'm going to be in big trouble. But it's been a nice like week's break of not building any, which has been really good. So yeah, that was nice. And Adam sold out all of his boards, and now he's got the challenge of how he's going to make more as well. He's definitely not coming here to make any more.
One-time offer.
Yeah, one-time offer only. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Ah, cool.
And I'm not volunteering to make anyone else's boards. I do not want to be a contract manufacturer. I don't enjoy making my own enough to make someone else's. So yeah.
Yeah, that would drive your hourly rate even further down, I think, if you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Cool.
Okay, bitluni, if you want to update us on what you've been up to.
Yeah, I didn't do much last month since I went on holiday and had many stuff in the background like Texas and so on. But I did a few things. In my last video, which was the 10-player console, I announced like a 2-player version for the Super Nintendo controllers. It's like a wing for the Adafruit Husa 32 board. And that uses this external R2R resistor ladder to do the video in comparison to the earlier implementation that used the internal DAC of the ESP32. And I thought it would be straightforward to just port the code and it will work straight away. Like here's the old version. You can maybe the CRT. So
Yeah.
It's flickering since it's 50 hertz power, but this is working flawlessly. But if I port the code to the external R2R resistor ladder, the color carrier doesn't work anymore, and I'm struggling like for 1 week tuning that. And now my patrons helped me. I just asked and told me the impedance is varying or stuff like that, and I have to go into that maybe. Plug in like a lookup table to convert the signals such that I compensate for the impedance that's changing probably from value to value. And so that's a little bit of struggling. That's why there is no video for that yet, but I'm working on that. Speaking of pick and place machine, the last live stream I did on bitluni's trash building the light placer, it blew up, or let's say I let the magic smoke escape from a few parts. It was like one of the cameras was broken since the high voltage peak was traveling through the controller board, burned the FTDI to the PC and over the USB host. And then the camera that was connected to this, that's the same USB host, was also broken. I have the replacement parts for that already. It was a cool stream fixing that. So we did like live debugging and troubleshooting. This was really cool. But I didn't have time yet, or let's say the head to wrap around this and continue with the light placer. But I think I will do now that I have everything like access done, and I might do a live stream this week. And what else did I do? Maybe I can share a screen. Yeah, okay. This one. Let's see, it shows up. Yeah. So we have October, and I quickly did my first PCB art. So that's like red PCB, and I did like vector graphics and Inkscape, and this is really basic with EasyEDA. I imported the layers, and it was quite a struggle since I'm using only 2-layer boards, to do like 1-layer design again and route every single line with this Charlie plexing that's really convoluted around the board, and leave even places for like the pin to be soldered on, or the battery. So this 2032 goes on there, and I never, that's even Tiny Pico, no, Tiny Pico, 80, sorry, I'm so branded. That's an 80 Tiny design, and that's 80 Tiny 1604. I didn't see that anywhere, and I don't have one here, so I simply did like this circuit without ever testing it before. So that will be, and ordered like 100 boards, and they are coming tomorrow probably. But it was like a tight schedule to maybe, if I want to list them on my Tindy store, I have to push out like a video end of next week. So we have like 2 weeks until the end of October. So it will be on time and Halloween if I will ship it, but it will probably not work. So I have like...
Come on, be confident.
Yeah, it doesn't cost much to order at JAC, but this was actually the most expensive order. Was like total with the quick shipping was like over $100, but I got a coupon. And yeah, I did the shitty add-on header here on one foot, even a switch, and here the SPI, not SPI, ISP connection, and everything should be in place, even a buzzer. But I don't think that will work since I didn't even put a cap, decoupling cap, and since that maybe draws some current, it will brown out or something. But yeah, let's see how it turns out. So, and that's basically all that I did for the last month. And yeah, that's all from me.
I gotta say, I saw the picture you tweeted out when you were camping, and
yeah,
I didn't travel late, but I saw the solar panel. It was like a big 100-watt panel by the tent.
yeah. I was camping. I was in Slovenia, paragliding and mountain hiking, and it was really cool. It was one of my best trips ever, and I had some good flights. I did like a quite high mountain this time, so I started from the top and then like hitchhiked back to my car, which was like on 2,000 meters. There's one mountain, it's called Mangad, and you can go with the car up to 2,000. The mountain itself, the peak is like on 2,600, and you can go by car up to 2,000 meters. And there is a starting place where you can start with the paraglider. And it is quite challenging, and I just did it by myself and started there and didn't even think how I will get back to my car, but it was quite straightforward. Some nice couple took me back there, and I took a lot of cool pictures and some footage from there. Maybe I will just build it in some videos in the future.
No, cool, eh? Be good for the Bitluni's Trash channel. I've got to say, I enjoyed watching the pick and place one. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was like 6 hours stream or something. Or
yeah, I think you must have been banging your head against the wall at the time, but it was great where you stuck with it and didn't feel the temptation to switch it off and troubleshoot it offline.
Yeah. It was like after 2 hours into the stream, it broke, and then I was like, I had just made the decision. Okay, I could just stop it. I was completely frustrated at this point. But then I thought, okay, maybe we will just like do Louis Rossmann style. So some tricks that I saw on his channel, I just tried them, just letting the alcohol evaporate to see which part is getting hot and stuff like that. This was really cool to just try it live on stream. And since it was on my secondary channel, I wasn't stressed about the quality of the stream.
Are you regretting not buying a pick and place yet?
No, it's as cool as a cool makeup project. So I built a 3D printer myself back then. Since I want to modify it, it is quite good to build it up yourself. So as a kid. So I even saw some obvious changes to make on the light playset to make it even faster, because you have like the end stops they're on the X carriage, so on the head the end stops are mounted for this axis that they should be like on the Y axis, so you have like two thick wires with shielded cables that are going through the chain for the end stops, and that's additional weight and drag and so on. So even a simple improvement on that can improve the light placer quite significantly. And I want to change the head maybe for the heads that you can buy from AliExpress that are quite compact and with two nozzles and so on. So that will be maybe some stuff for future upgrades.
So I'm making a prediction now. That Bitluni's going to make an awesome pick and place machine. He's going to do awesome mods. But it's going to be 2021 before he runs.
Yeah, probably.
Christophel?
Not even there. When I had like an announcement when I built my 3D, when I designed my own 3D printer, I made like a announcement and showed off like the gantry and so on, and never did a secondary video or on follow up on that project. So I simply built it. I was so stressed with my master thesis back then, so I didn't had the means to do like a video on that, and now it's obsolete since I'm just using like the Prusa, and so.
Sure.
I liked it on the second video when you were building the pick and place, and since Aaron had went home, you were asking him where the things were in your own office, and he knew better than you.
Yeah. So Aaron was visiting me for like 4 days or something. Yeah. Since he's also from Germany, and he was staying here, and we did some cool stuff. And he helped me building the light placer. And like after 2 days, he knew better where all my stuff is around, since I'm quite chaotic, and he exactly knew where everything is, and I didn't know. So it was really.
But your table is cleaned now.
Yeah, I had like my family over, so even my complete lab is cleaned out. So I just took a box and just shoved everything and hid it from the people. So
Never to open the box again.
yeah, but my desk is still messy. So like here, all the crap.
That's how it was.
Yeah, so I was talking like for 12 minutes. Next one, please.
Well, speaking of Aaron, why don't you let us know what you've been up to?
Yeah, I didn't publish much videos lately, but I was working on some stuff for once. I got some progress on my hacked fitness trackers. It's, you know it from the earlier MakerCast, and there is an heart rate sensor inside, but it has a closed source library, which is only published to some manufacturers. And on some strange sites, I got the library and was able to make it work under the Arduino IDE. So it's completely compatible, even if it's not the right thing to do to use closed source in Arduino. But yeah, sometimes this works only that way. And yeah, I did maybe a week of reverse engineering the library, but I never got it working without it or without the real library. And then I gave up on it because it's just not worth it. It's already working like this. Then I got some RGB panels. Thanks to Brian for getting me this way. And I bought way too much, but it was quite fun to get them working with the ESP32 and I2S. And I have one example here. I hope it's not mirrored, but it looks good.
No, it's not.
Looks good, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
nice. And yeah, it's first I tried to get my own library running with I2S, but then I found 2 different libraries that already using it, and yeah, I just took that library, and it's super fast. There will be a video coming with a comparison to the ESP version, the SPI version, and the I2S version. And yeah, I see Brian asked how many I bought, and it's about 30 right now. So I never, yeah,
What?
it's just
What?
too much.
Wow.
I don't
just
know
wrote
what to
here in
do.
the chat, you can't have too much RGB, but that's too much RGB.
Yeah,
Wow.
I need to find some usage, and yeah, let's see.
Yeah, that's 5 LED cubes.
It is, yeah.
You have a wall, Aaron, you got a wall behind you that's completely empty.
Yeah, it's
You fill the whole wall with them.
Mhm.
a video wall, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to prepare for the European Soccer Championships.
Public viewing.
Yeah.
thought about
power required.
I thought about putting one panel in the window or more than one, and to annoy the neighbors, something like this. And also, one project idea I have is to use it as your house number, that it shows in a nice 3D printed case, and maybe on the different seasons show different things. Like on October, some skeletons.
Pumpkin,
Yeah, right. So
maybe
that's an idea.
rain and snowflakes.
Yeah, and if someone has the birthday or some balloons or so, but that's just in my head for now.
As if someone's not going to steal it.
Yeah. Then it's too late. It's okay.
None more. Yeah, okay.
Everybody can use it. Yeah, and from the last MakerCast, I still got these propeller things. Not watches. I will turn it on. It's super annoying, but that's just some party light with music. And we had this challenge to get some very strange parts from AliExpress. And that was one of my thing, and I changed it. So it's not done now, but I changed it to be some kind of clock, and I already have the text working. And there's now an WCH microcontroller inside, which has direct USB support. And so I added one USB port here on the top, so you can directly program it via USB. And everything is contained on the top, and only the power gets through to it. And I also added a Hall sensor to it, so it knows where it is. And I will turn the light back on.
You can just imagine if you program it and then forget to unplug before you turn it on, you're going to have a nice...
Yeah, one bad thing is if you plug it in, it will directly power the motor back. And it wants to turn, but it's not so hard that it will turn on its own. Another thing to the Rgb matrices, I got a panel with 128 by 64, and there are some unknown chips on it. That's are the LS9929, and I don't know the protocol from it, so I soldered one of these chips on a protoboard to brute force any protocol that it could use. So the Arduino will do it for me and will stop if any LED turns on. It's hard to explain without the knowledge behind it. Normally, it's just shift registers that are getting filled on this one, for example. But they also made one or different ones that have some intelligence behind it, so you can control the ghosting or the brightness or the power output for the LEDs via the same register outputs, and you have to change some registers. But if you don't know what registers are used,
so is it I2C or SPI? Do you know?
It's just it's kind of SPI, but it's a proprietary. You have one data in and one clock in and one OE in, so enable, and one latch pin. So it is compatible to the older versions, the 64 chef registers. But then they have some tricks. If the latch is coming 2 clocks before the last bit, then it's a control register writing. Or if it's 4 clocks before the last bit, then it's some other writing. So you have to test everything out at 16-bit with yeah, that's nearly all. Yeah, I repaired some iMacs, but that's not a video thing. That's just I bought them broken and repaired them, and it's
Selling on profit.
yeah, right. That was just some. I never owned one, and I wanted to repair one for a longer time, but it's not worth a video. So it's just.
I've got to say, I love these wrist displays that you've got to just visage in images and nightmares of kids running around with 3 children and then running around the house. Just as a recipe for disaster, but looks cool while they're getting hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have anything more to say.
No problem. So, Arturo, if you've got an update on your Serpentine and your Tindy list wars, which I think I am one of those list members as well.
Yeah, well, actually, I wanted to start with a project I haven't really worked on last month, but since I'm new, so maybe I can mention. And also, I want to go back to it. So, and maybe some people have seen it. So I have this feather keyboard feather wing, which uses the BlackBerry Q10 keyboard, and it's compatible with compatible with the Adafruit feather ecosystem. So yeah, I'm still looking into getting them produced and putting them on Tindy. It's just taking a bit longer because I want to have like a proper test sequence for them, so it tests all the chips and the keyboard, so I know everything works. So that's taking a bit longer. But what I've been doing mostly this month is actually, yeah, like you mentioned, I have these two. Let's see, it focused-ish. Yeah, I have these 2 tiny boards called Serpente, which are microchip SAM D21 boards in a tiny package, and they run CircuitPython. So they're really, really nice for prototyping, like quick prototypes, and just check if some sensor works or whatever you need. If you like, yeah, get a temperature, show it on a display. It's super easy to do that. And also, some people might recognize that they look quite similar to like DigiSpark. Like, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, there used to be such a thing. So yeah, so I have these 2 with Type-C and Type-A. And I have this fixture that I built for them because I've been hand assembling them. And yeah, that might focus one day. So it's a quite nice laser cut bed of needles fixture here. And it allows me to test all the GPIOs and yeah, also the LED. Obviously, that's not automated. I have to look at it, that it actually lights up. But it's been going quite well. Like I have a box of them here.
Which has proved the most popular, the Type-C or the Type-A?
So I put, because the initial stock was like 40, and I put 20 and it's dropped. 20 and 20 of each, but the Type-C sold out faster. So then I moved some stock because I only had parts for a limited number, but I could assemble either. So it seems the Type-C was more popular. I think it's more and more computers now have Type-C on them, so it's quite nice to have that, I think.
Yeah, I think you got Adafruit's attention as well on your product.
Yeah, they I think they liked it quite a lot. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes with more stock. Because yeah, like I said, for now I'm assembling them by hand, but I want to also switch, or I want to make a large order with PCBA from China. So that would be easier to sell and wouldn't take so much of my time. But yeah, right, for the fixture, I can show, because I have one board that doesn't have the header. So it's nice to see that nice springy action.
Do you know which assembly service you will use?
Yeah, so for this one, I sent out like RFQ for, I don't know, 5 or 6 different services like seed and, well, no, I don't remember. It's been quite a lot, but I got a good quote. And yeah, I got quotes from all of them. And I compared kind of also how fast they replied and how, like, you know, how eager they were to actually help. Because, for example, PCBWay were, I don't know, I know that they're big, but they were not super, you know, excited. I mean, they should be a bit excited, right? I'm not wrong here, I guess. So I don't know, right? So for MakerFabs, I actually got the most like communication, and they actually tried to find also alternatives for some of the parts. So maybe we can replace it so it's cheaper to produce and easier to get and so on. So that was quite nice of them. So I think I'm gonna go with them for both. Also, I recently tried JLC's PCBA service. They had the new, I don't know if that's public yet, because it's been a closed beta, but
Yeah, it's public now. Yeah.
Public
okay.
now, yeah, I think it is.
So for that one, I have a smaller version of this board, which is just the keyboard in the PMOD format. So I got 50 of those made, and it had everything on it except, let's see, there's this tiny connector here, you can see. And that one they didn't have in their library. So I have a stencil for it, so I'm gonna just solder those on. And yeah, that's gonna go on Tindy also in the near future. But yeah, I have some PCBs also on the way, which I thought maybe they could get here in time, but so I could show them off, but no luck. Maybe tomorrow. But I can show one of them where it's going. So I have this AliExpress, right? I have this camping lamp, I guess, which, don't worry, it won't go on. Like, this is how it works. There's a switch inside, so it turns on when you pull this up, yeah. And it's like $15, but it's only white, and then there's a button here which changes to like red, which I thought it's like, you have to have RGB and blinkies, right? I mean, it's boring. So what I did is there's two kinds of PCBs in here. There's these 3 long PCBs here with just white, I guess double color, red and white LEDs. So I designed a new one which has RGB ones, and then there's another PCB here which controls it. So I also designed a new one for that. And the cool thing about this one is, okay, that it actually takes these, what is it called? 18650 batteries, rechargeable, and you can use it also as a power bank. I mean, there's no PCB in it right now. So you can charge it, and you can use it as a power
totally need
bank.
one of these.
Right? I mean,
yeah,
quite cool. And I'll have extra PCBs I can send you if you want, if it works. So I've never really designed a PCB for like charging and battery, protection and so on. So I thought this would be a nice kind of thing to do, because it's both charging, protection, and switching, because you can either use it as a power bank or as a power source. And then on the driver board, I also put the SAMD21, so it can run CircuitPython. And I put an accelerometer on it, so you could maybe, as you turn it around, stuff happens. And I put a microphone on it, so maybe if there's music or something, it can do some blinkies. So we'll see what happens there. I should get them soon. So I think, that's mostly what I've been up to and what's the future plans.
So have you been finding the Tindy process, has it been swallowing a lot of your time, and you think it's been worth it?
I mean, it's been quite interesting, because these boards are the first time I put something on Tindy, so it's been quite, as I say, interesting to see. And I learned also quite a lot about speeding up assembly, hand assembly. So the way I ordered these is as a panel of like 25 of them. but I realized since I'm hand assembling, I can't really reach this far into the panel with my hand. So I had to kind of split it into 2 halves. And yeah, then I quickly realized that picking stuff up with a tweezer, you have to align it and so on. It's also not great. So I switched to this vacuum picking tool with a needle, and that also sped up the process quite a lot.
You need to watch one of Seon's earlier videos where he's got the what would you call it, Seon? The
rotating table.
and he's got the bits where you can have all the components, and he just swivels it around. And
but I think that's loose components, right? In there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The problem with that was that, like with resistors, if you just drop them, they're gonna be on different sides. So what I did,
that's annoying if you have to flip the resistors all the time to have one right way around.
Yeah, but that happens on tape as well. Like you open the tape and you take the resistor out, and the ones next to it flip around anyway. So.
He uses this vacuum needle, so he can pick it up and place it directly from this strip.
What size parts are you using?
Sorry?
What size parts are you using?
603, which...
Okay. Yeah, a bit hard to do the smaller stuff with a vacuum.
For sure. Yeah, I actually have to have 2 needle sizes, because for the bigger parts, the small one wouldn't pick it up, but for the small parts, the big needle, it sucks it in like sideways and they get stuck. So I need to switch. I think you do that similarly. You have the big ones and the small ones.
Do you get a sore hand using the needle?
No, because I use like a smaller panel, I can rest my hand quite easily. So it's not in the air all the time.
Okay.
So
if you are doing like this, the Tindy stuff, and you are assembling many boards, you quickly also learn, so that I made this experience that you quickly learn to design your boards for easy manufacturing. So you line up all the same resistor values and the same orientation and something like, if you have the space to do this. So that's way easier to just place one after another of one type and so on. So that's something I quickly learned in my designs to change it to. I have like the first designs are all over the place and shifted around too close together, and so some stuff like that. But you really adjust to that if you have to hand assemble everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the hand assemblies. I know some of my early boards, they were some of the bigger sellers were more chunkier components, but I stupidly offered the option of assembly. And I used to like getting an order through Tindy, but then I'd also be cursing if the box was checked to be assembled. I was like, oh man, I wished I hadn't gave the option for those boards. So I can definitely sympathize with saps your time.
So one of my mentors that taught me how to do hand assembly, told me a neat trick. So if your resistors are upside down, don't try to manually manipulate them. Just pick them up and drop them again, because there's a 50-50 chance they'll be right side up. That sped things up for me quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I initially had my components in these tiny vials. So I used to just pour some out and then align them like Looney says. But I realized that that doesn't scale so well. So I had some reels already, and then I bought extra components in tapes, and I 3D printed these like feeders, and I just aligned everything.
Actually, what I meant is to align them
on the PCB. Yes.
Yeah, in the design, so it's easier to just place every part.
That's true. But and I aligned the feeders in the order that I'm assembling also. So because first I had to kind of keep going back to the design to see, okay, now this one. But it's these things that you don't think about, but you learn. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. I'll go next because we'll leave Jeri at the end. I think we might have the most questions. So the past month, going on from the last MakerCast, I completed my wheel stand where I showed the comical picture of me, my full motorbike gear in the sitting room. Finished that with my son, and my eldest son, and he got to use that, and it was good. It did show up my lack of knowledge in some engineering and 3D design. So got some ideas for how to improve that and go back. We did manage to smash it on the first go, so we'll be going back and redesign those. But it was good, and building a 3D printer for my son as well. A bit of a Prusa mashup. So that's something I'm going to do a video on as well. And he's keen to try doing the odd little bit of design. He's 9 now. My eldest getting a little bit older, so that's going to be cool to do. Just recently, I started doing a little bit of work with GLC PCB, the same as many other people. Fell into that trap, but I chose to do a absolute beginner's guide to starting off with your first schematic, doing a little bit of the PCB layout, some of the reasons why you do the schematic and other bits and pieces. It was aimed at the very much beginner. I'm no absolute expert. When I see the likes of Seon and other guys doing these 4-layer boards, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. So it is just aimed for beginners, and that was received pretty well. And so that was nice and positive. I did struggle to try and fit it into one concise video, so I ended up doing 3 videos and try to do it in little bite-sized chunks of sort of like 10 to 12 minutes, and I think that seems to have helped things as well, and people can just flip between them as they need. The other thing I've been working on, which I'll probably do a video on, but is a camera slider, and as with a lot of my projects, I've kind of taken someone else's design and doing a bit of a rehash and adding to it. And this was from JJ Robots. It's on Thingiverse, and they've done a pretty good control system, and it's got 2 axes for tracking what you're filming. But they've done it and they've used a generic PCB, which works out being fairly expensive because they use it in a balanced robot and other things. So I've done a custom PCB that's got a couple of stepper drivers on and just uses a Wemos ESP32 board, and going to redesign that with to work with their code. And so that's just a lot of the hard work had been done, but then kind of just adding to it and making it a cheaper entry for people. So that's going to be coming out soon, and that's working pretty well, and surprisingly cheaper than I thought, I've got to say. A random one is, like I mentioned at the start of it, I continue and work on my playhouse for my children. So I've not really done any videos on that for a long time, but it's worked quite nice. It's got 600 watts of solar panels on, which is not a lot, but it's worked pretty well. And I'll share my screen here. And I do have, one of the things I do on my channel is the login side of things. And since it's been in operation, it's generated about 0.5 megawatt of power.
What?
Which
Crazy.
it sounds a lot. It's not as much as what you may think. It's been going a few years, but I've since evolved it so that it's got a DIY power wall that then ties into power in the house as well. And it's just a small sort of gentle trickle of power, but that works really well. And it just dawned on us that I'm nearly up to that figure the other day of 0.5 megawatt, and that works pretty well. And as you can see, the UK sun is terrible, so we're not getting too much at the moment. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that, and I've got a few new products coming out around that as well. Just the monitoring side of things, both monitoring solar charge controller and the inverter, and pulling into Grafana that I showed there. Yes, Brian Locke says, imagine if you lived not in the north of England. It would be nice, yes. It'd be a lot warmer, it'd be a lot more sun, I'm sure, anyway. But the one other thing I'm working on, which I'm going to have to move my camera, so I do apologize in advance. This might give quite a bit of shake, but this is using the, if it will show, that light might be in the way. I cannot move it any closer, unfortunately. This is a strange one. It's a Rocket League rank tracker. I play Rocket League with my son, and this is going to be a present for him. This is too late for him to be up now, my eldest son. And it's just done a little API that goes off and queries what your Rocket League rank is, and it can show that on a screen, and it uses an ESP 8266 in one of Brian Locke's converter boards. And that'll just pop up when you change your rank or if you win a match and all these kind of things. So it's just a small little thing, but Santa Claus is going to bring that at Christmas for him. So yeah.
I hope it wasn't a surprise.
Sorry?
I hope it wasn't a surprise gift.
He's up a bit late, and after the last MakerCast that Brian did, I think he's banned from all MakerCasts now anyway. He's only 9. No, I think he's got the attention span of a 9-year-old, so he probably would have switched off after 4 minutes anyway, so I think I'm safe in that, yeah. And if he's up at 10 to 10, I'll not be happy. But yeah, so as ever, lots of different projects working on and different bits and pieces on the go. Far too many, which ends up grinding them all to a halt, but trying to focus a little bit more on individual ones and get them out. So that's it from me. So Jeri, our special guest, if you want to update us what you've been up to in your Tilt 5 project.
Shenanigans I've been up to.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be on here with you. And I'll try to stick to the same format. What have you been doing for the last month? Because I think it's kind of quite different and interesting. So for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been working in the augmented reality field, doing augmented reality headsets and VR. I worked at Valve Software in the hardware lab, put that together, and we did HTC Vive and things like that there. Started a company a few years ago. Things imploded with that. Started another company a couple years ago. But to get to what I've been doing this last month, I've been hacking marketing, which is radically different than soldering things together, but oddly the same as well. It's been pretty fun. So we just launched a Kickstarter campaign for our new product, and there were a lot of tasks that had to be done. And so being a founder of a small company, you end up having to do a lot of things that you normally wouldn't do, like marketing, if you're at a bigger company. And so in the last month or so, I was key in doing a promo video, which had all this Hollywood special effects in it, super cheesy. Recommend everyone go to the Tilt 5 Kickstarter and take a look at that. Which has been pretty fun. It's super cringy if you're wanting technical details, but if you're like into gaming and especially tabletop gaming, people are just like, oh, I love it so much. So around that, I did all the special effects. So we wanted to be able to show all the special effects that we composited into the video on our actual AR glasses as well, to prove that, what we're showing composited, it could actually be done. So I actually created all of those Unity projects with all the animations and whatnot in there, and the various hand tracking things to do the shots. So that was quite challenging. We had to do it in kind of record time because we wanted to get this Kickstarter out. On top of that, I had to work with the team to come up with a marketing strategy for the product. And, if you're at a big company, you just throw millions of dollars at it. If you're doing it just grassroots, like we're doing it, we did it with like thousands, really just small thousands of dollars. And I'm super proud that we were able to, in a very short amount of time, get the word out, come up with a message that people understood, these things that you...
Yeah, congratulations to the $1 million mark.
Yeah, we just crossed $1 million, which is super exciting. No one in the company is getting any sleep because we're all having to stay up at weird hours to monitor the Kickstarter campaign and answer all the questions. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last month. No projects, no fun projects at all, just pure business stuff.
That's okay. That's all part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Prior to that, I did get to do a little bit of technical stuff, so that's cool. So this is our Archie board that's inside the headset. Super proud of this board. This is like a 500 some pin BGA. I did it all on a 6-layer board, which was quite challenging to escape route all of that. And what this does is this does all of the tracking that's inside the headset. It does all the cameras, all the projectors, and then it does the image reprojection.
Is this an ASIC?
Yeah, this is it's like a DSP from hell. So it has. It's
what
a really
are the connectors on the board? Sorry to interrupt.
No, okay. There is, on either side, there's two MIPI connectors for the projectors. So that's these guys. Boy, I can't do this mirrored. These guys are MIPI connectors go to the projector. And so, and then there's two cameras inside our headset, somewhere around here, right there. These guys are MIPI to the cameras. Then there's some microphone connectors. There's some infrared LED connectors on there. There's a USB-C connector. So one of our other guests was doing USB-C. This is kind of fun to do. So yeah, lots going on there. It's really cool. The evolution of our product, started off with the previous company, the circuit boards were insanely complicated. There were just, probably 100 semiconductors inside of it. And now we've got it down to, one chip and a couple, jelly bean logic things kind of hanging out around this DSP chip, this vision processor.
Jeri, how light's the headset now?
It's 85 grams,
Wow.
which is super duper lightweight. So, one of the things when you're working in VR and AR, all the headsets, you have to jam a lot inside there. And so they get heavy really quick. And so our objective when we put the company together was to make a system that you would just slip the glasses on, flip open this game board that comes with it, and magic springs from the table. And you've got to be able to wear the glasses for hours and hours. And you can't do that if you're putting like a pound or two on your head. And so just tons of our work went into making kind of a unitized mechanical structure. Like the PCBs, actually piece of the mechanical, the camera like brackets are all like tying it all together. So it's nice and strong, yet really lightweight. And we've nailed it. It's like the lightest headset out there. And then we did all these other things like these nose pieces that can clip in. So depending on your face shape or whether you wear eyeglasses, you can put in these different nose pieces so that it's comfortable on your face. And so much work. I mean, we went through hundreds of prototypes just to come up with this arm shape so that you can just slip the glasses on. And if you're a child, if you're an adult, it just works.
Yeah.
No ratchet straps like all these VR headsets, and not things face sucking your eyes out. Like we just put so much work into making sure that we were the opposite of those.
Yeah. Like with VR, you get like a really sore neck or you get a sore back, if you wear them too long. And I remember like with the Cast AR, some of the earlier dev stuff, the like wearing it for more than like 15 or 20 minutes, like you end up with like marks on your nose and it just felt like you was going to rip your nose off, like because of the weight. It's really good to see that you got it so light. It's really good.
Yeah. We used to lovingly call the Cast AR system the face crusher because well, we were headed in this direction, but the kind of things that you said you'd worked with it before. What we were doing was just trying to get all the electronics in there one time so that you could use it. And this is like 1/3 the weight of those glasses, if I recall correctly. So it's a hell of a lot lighter.
Sure. Do you want to just explain to everyone like what Cast AR was? Because
I can give you a brief history of what happened. So I was working at Valve Software. Really, it was a great opportunity working there because Gabe Newell, the founder of the company, hired me. Valve Software has this. I should back up. Valve Software has this platform called Steam, and if you're a PC gamer, you probably know what Steam is. That's you buy your games on Steam, and that's how Valve makes all their money. And Gabe Newell, the founder of the company, tracked me down. He's like, "You are the perfect person to run the hardware lab. Come put together a dream team, and your main objective is to get us away from Windows because they were under constant threat of Windows locking them out of." Being able to distribute games. At the time, the Windows Metro interface was coming out, and you couldn't have a store on the Windows Metro interface unless it was the Microsoft store. And so he gave me the mission of, he's like, put together a team that brings us into the living room and brings the whole family together. And so this was an awesome opportunity because we had like huge budgets, like all these amazing people like Ben Krasnow and Alan Yates working there. And we just researched how to make games more fun. And so we discovered a lot of things, and through pure brute force, we were doing things like these amazing AR and VR systems where we could see what the future was going to be like. Even though the headsets cost tens of thousands of dollars, we're like, wow, this experience is amazing. So Valve decided they were going to go hard into VR. They didn't want to do the AR stuff I was doing. They let the whole AR team go, including myself. So I went back to Gabe and I said, Gabe, like, it's just, well, first of all, I was going to go to his office and like chew him out. So the first like 2 steps into the office, I'm like super aggressive. And then by like the 3rd step, I'm crying. I can't believe you're killing the project. Oh, whatever. And I'm like, I guess I did the wise thing at the end of the conversation. I'm like, Gabe, you should just sell me the technology. And he's like, okay. It's like, whoa. And so for like $100 and a bunch of legal work, I got, it's kind of the foundation of what this turned into from Valve. Started a company called Cast AR with some other folks from Valve. And we made some prototypes. We went to Maker Faire of all places for the first place to show it off. It was a huge hit. We had like an hour-long line to get into the booth. It was showing stuff that people had never shown before. We had, way before any of the VR guys were showing wands, we were showing wands. We had the ability to put cards on the table and have little characters spraying out of the cards. We had multiplayer AR experiences. And so got this really warm reception to what we showed, but it was super early. Everything was still a little bit brute force at that point. Then we launched a Kickstarter, which was pretty successful. We raised $1 million on that Kickstarter over the entire month. We took that money. We actually built the first 200 units of the glasses. We shipped them out to people. I don't know, maybe that's where you got your headset, or maybe you got one of the later developer kits. Then we moved the company to Silicon Valley. We were in Washington State. So we moved to Silicon Valley because we wanted to be close to all the money and then close to engineers as well. And so we moved it down to Silicon Valley, and that's when things went completely off the rails. So, and it's where I learned a lot of valuable lessons about how to not run a company. So one of the things,
the season of Silicon Valley.
So for those of you that have watched Silicon Valley, you think, oh, it's so funny and those stories are so over the top. There were points where when things were going completely south for Cast AR, I was crying watching Silicon Valley because it was just so real, and just the silly shit that was going on. It was just like, how could they nail it? Silicon Valley is this weird bubble. One of my mentors that works in the toy industry, he calls it the romper room. He's like, Silicon Valley is a place where you're in this distortion bubble where reality and money is completely distorted. People do really silly things, and sometimes it's successful. And when it's hugely successful, you have these 100x returns on your business. And so there's these money people, venture capitalists, will give you money down here, and they expect you to do these insane things. And so we came down and we raised $15 million from this venture capitalist. And at the time, I'd hired a CEO, this kind of scrappy hardware startup CEO, and he was doing a really good job of keeping the company going and keeping us moving forward and making sure the dev kits were going out to everybody. And as soon as we took this money, the investors came in, they're like, he's got to go. We got to get one of these like big grandiose CEOs, and we got to get like these marketing people in there. And so they stripped all of our leadership out of the company, and they brought a bunch of Disney executives in and all of the Sony executives. And they proceeded to like do just insane things in the company. So we always had like this good dialogue with our customers at the time. And they just like cut that off, and all of a sudden we went radio silent. They started spending all of this money on rebranding the company. They hated the name Cast AR, which I don't blame them. It was kind of a dumb name anyway. But they were spent like $750,000 just to come up with a new name. It was hilarious. Like when they revealed the new name of what the product was going to be, all the employees, their jaw just dropped. Like, what, really? They were going to rename Cast AR to Voyage AR, right? Not any better. But the problem with Voyage AR, when you saw it printed on the screen, it read Voyagar. So
It looked
immediately,
like a penis, like in.
it was horrible. It was horrible. And so then all the employees were just like dumbstruck by this. They're like, oh my God, what's going on? Voyagar. And all the artists in the company started making like Voyagar the Warrior, like Conan the Barbarian parodies of it. The executives got really mad about that and started throwing temper tantrums and just a bunch of all the stuff you'd see on Silicon Valley. It was happening. And so they just burned through our money and crashed us into the ground. It was just ludicrous. So a core group of us were like, this technology is so good. Like we just absolutely crush all the other AR systems out there. No one can do this. No one can do tabletop experiences. We can't let it die. And so a group of us came together and were like, we can actually buy the patents and assets and tooling and all this stuff from the bankruptcy. And
I remember, Jeri, I remember when I saw the first time when you revealed this project before your Kickstarter on your channel. And I was completely shocked how crazy this project was, because it was so integrated. It was so tiny back then, even having 2 projectors and this basic system of like this retro reflection that you can have many users using the same table, and everyone sees his projection in stereo and so on, and everything so integrated. So it was even like time of the flip phone. So we didn't have any smartphone technology that was so advanced even and so integrated back then. So it was ahead of time. So I got the feeling when I saw what you presented back then. So I was completely stunned about that. So
yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring up. Is like, you know, a lot of startups will fail because they're too early, and we were definitely too early. And so when I kind of reflect back on like how ambitious we were, I feel much better about it now. Like the whole market has evolved, and it's like people are more savvy about what we're presenting. Like a lot of people have used virtual reality now, and it's fun. Virtual reality is fun, but it's one of these things you do for 10 minutes and you wave your arms around, play Beat Saber. So now everyone's more receptive when I say like, we have this clever system it's more comfortable. It uses retroreflective surfaces that make the images more comfortable to view. They're in focus. It's a wide field of view. All your friends can sit around the table. They're like, oh, we get it. It's like VR, but the comfortable version, or the VR, the version where I can sit across from my friends, or the VR where I can take my game board and link it with my friend's game board and have a shared 3D space that we can both reach into and manipulate over distance. And so there's a lot more language that I can use to convey what we're doing. Back in the day, 5-6 years ago, whenever we started the first company, it's like, it was this huge uphill battle of like this thing called AR, and it lets you do like magic on your table, and it was hard to describe, and it was hard for investors to understand. It was hard for customers to understand. So if you compare like our value proposition, big marketing words that I've learned over the years, then versus now, it was much easier for us to do a Kickstarter video, which shows the potential and the experience versus then. And we also, one of the valuable lessons I learned was, and this is what my co-founders and I agreed on when we started this new company, is that we are not going to bring in external CEOs and executives. Like, I'm going to be the vision of the company. That was what we all agreed. Like, I understand where the industry is going and how to create these experiences. So I'm going to stay CEO. And everyone fell into their place, and they're like, we don't need to bring in the bigwigs. And I've had to raise money to get this far along in the company. So I had to go to these venture capitalists. And now I've learned the code words that they use for, we want to replace all your leadership and all your team. You'll hear things.
Red flag.
Yeah. And I've learned that it's not worth it to just walk out the door. And over the last year and a half, 2 years that I've been working on getting Tilt 5 going, I've walked away from more opportunity for money than I would have liked to. just because you hear these kind of code word, like, the most insulting one that I hear is like, well, we love what you're doing, but we don't really, think that you have the leadership team. So you need some adult supervision.
Right.
It's like, fuck you.
Patronizing,
like, no, fuck you.
So we'll take a guy from Pepsi and we'll bring him in and tell you how to build. Yeah, okay, cool.
I mean, there's been some pretty surreal things working with these venture capitalists in the last year. It's probably hurting my chances of getting venture capital talking about it, but I don't give a shit, right?
Sorry, just quickly, because back on what you were just talking about the timing and that you were early and stuff. It was actually so. Like my history is games. Like I had a game development company for quite a long time, and so just as Cast AR was starting to get momentum, Apple did their big, we're going all into AR, right? Which like everyone that I was speaking to at the time, like in the games industry, were thinking, okay, well that's the death bell for Cast AR, because even it doesn't matter how good Cast AR was or the technology is, Apple are just too big. Like they've got the whole dialogue, right? Like I can't help thinking to myself now that Tilt 5, the timing for you is perfect, because what Apple and Google did was they introduced Cast AR, AR to everyone, and they showed exactly
Microsoft with HoloLens.
Sorry.
Microsoft introduced also AR with HoloLens.
Yeah, sure. Hang on, just hear me out though. But I mean, Apple and Google have all the dialogue, right? But what they did is they taught everyone how useless AR is for pretty much everyone, because what they did was they said, here's AR, and all you can do with it is on something on this tiny screen, so on this tiny screen that isn't immersive. And ultimately, it's a gimmick. Like, as far as I'm concerned, AR on a phone or a tablet is a gimmick, because it's not immersive like a VR is, and it's not extensible. It doesn't put you anywhere, and it doesn't allow you to do anything outside the scope of a tiny little screen. And when you look at all the apps that came out on the iPhone, like, okay, it was a tape measuring thing. You can measure your house, or you can, you know what I mean? Like, they were just utility. But now the whole world understands that AR and VR are different. And now you're taking AR into a space where, hang on, you're not confined to a little screen. You're not sitting on by yourself. You can make it kind of immersive, or immersive in that multi-user, big open space. You can move around and look without having to hold a phone in front of your face. I think the timing couldn't be better, because I think Apple and Google have failed in really bringing AR as a useful tool.
Yep. Totally agree. And you bring up a really good point, and it's some interesting like stories around that. And there's like two parts to that. So on the business side of things at that time, and part of the reason that our investors were having us do so many irrational things is there was a boogeyman around the corner. Apple, Facebook, Google were like, we're coming out with AR headsets, and like the buzz was it's going to happen next year. And so our investors are like, you got to strike now or you're going to be like doomed. It's like, they're coming out. They say they're coming out. And no matter how much I tried to reassure people, like there's laws of physics around the type of headsets that they want to do. And, at Valve Software, we had tried to brute force these Minority Report style AR headsets, and I know how difficult it is. And so they're trying to rush the thing out to the market, and they're trying to like get an exit for us. That's the thing. They want to flip us to make a bunch of money. And but it turns out like, like 3 years has gone by and we haven't seen anything remotely close to, the dream of glasses as like thin as your guys' glasses. It's just the laws of physics. It's going to take decades for us to get there. And so our system, even though like a couple years has gone by, is still super relevant, because no one can even come close to doing a tabletop experience like us. The other interesting thing that happened to us around that time as well is you had companies like Magic Leap and and then all of the hype around Apple and Microsoft just took all the wind out of the sails as far as investment. So Magic Leap came through and hoovered up like $2 million worth of investment. So we would go to investors and they would be like, yeah, we're already into Magic Leap and they've got it wrapped up. It's totally going to work.
Right.
Fast forward a couple years ago, their device is really cool, but it's not even remotely close a mass market device. Then you have Microsoft when they announced the HoloLens. It's an amazing device. I love it. But the thing is, when they positioned it in the market, they had these promo videos of people like, learning how to play guitar on the thing and walking down the street, and like banner ads are popping up at them, and like you're gonna like use it to navigate, and like it's amazing. And now in the last like 3 or 4 years, they've had to backpedal and like, well, it's got this little tiny image.
Yeah,
and,
it's like
Those
and
are
it's
really
like this
heavy.
giant spaceman helmet you got to put on, and like now they position themselves in the right market, which they're like doing industrial and business
it's
type
like
applications.
$3,000 or something.
Yeah, the new one that they released with just a couple new features, I think it's $3,500.
Yeah.
And so toot my own horn, like the brilliance that we saw, our group saw 7 years ago working at Valve was like doing this technique limits your experiences to tabletop experiences, but it allows us to make a headset that's 85 grams. It costs $299. It lets you have this massive experience on your table with just game characters running everywhere that you can reach in and touch, and it's in focus instead of like all these fixed focus systems that force you to focus off into the distance. And it's got a lot of virtues. And I think you're right. The market is woken up a bit, even on the investment side and even on the developer side. And so the reception this time has been fantastic. Like we're just drowning in opportunity with developers that our small team can't keep up with.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was rambly, but I mean it's
I have a technical question maybe about the API. So you have shown there is a plugin for what is called this system?
Unity and Unreal.
Unity, yeah. Is it more open? Can you design your own board or wallpaper with this tracking points and so on? Is it open to the public, the API?
Yeah, so that's a complicated question. I'll have to like break it down into a couple pieces. So we have two plugins. So Unity and Unreal, which are the two biggest game engines out there. And so this plugin is super easy to use. I made a video of the Unity one. It's just like drag, drop, kind of move some sliders around, and then you just look over at the table next to you, and your virtual world shows up. I think I did it in 5 minutes on the video. Yeah. It might take a first timer 10 minutes, right? It's super easy to use. We have a wand. So we have a wand where you can move through 3D space and kind of carve through things and pick things up. And I mean, all the buttons and joysticks on that are just like regular gamepad joysticks and buttons. So it's super easy to use if you're a game designer. And then if you want to use like kind of the 3D aspect of it, you just attach things to this game object and you can move it through the 3D space. So that's what the Unity and Unreal plugins look like. And then we have a native SDK, and this is for the the more power users. Like we have tons of people reaching out to us like, oh, are you going to support the Godot engines? Like eventually we'll get there. Like we don't have time to do every plugin for every application out there. Are you going to do WebXR? Like, yeah, sure. Like that's what this SDK is for. So there's going to be a lot of makers and hackers are just going to go out there and take this SDK and hook it up. And it's more complicated. You'd have to open up our like Unity plugin and look at how we're doing some of the math, but it's pretty trivial. And then in the headset, as far as other features I haven't covered yet, is there's 2 cameras in here. And so one camera is tracking your head position. So it's just finding where the game board is and orienting your virtual world, kind of pointing north from your position. And it also, that same camera tracks the wand. So it's this massive field of view, wide field of view camera. It's like 140-degree field of view. It's pretty awesome. And then there's a second camera, and they're both infrared cameras. And we have these clever tricks around like strobing LEDs so that we can do this kind of pseudo global shutter.
Vive.
Yeah, kind of like the Vive. Like the Vive does this big strobe, but we do it to snap, like a camera flash, to snapshot the world and stop any motion blur. But these two cameras run on two different wavelengths. So we have a bandpass filter on each of them, so that one's running at 850 nanometer, which is pretty close to red. You can actually, if you look really close, you can see a little red glow coming from the front of the glasses. And then for our high resolution machine vision camera, computer vision camera, it's on 940 nanometers, which is a deeper infrared. And we chose that for a very specific reason. There's a lot of really cool things you can do. First of all, your body reflects 940 really easy. So we have hand tracking, so you can track your hands going through the space. And then also, because we use this retroreflective material, which the light that strikes it only goes back to each user. So we can actually make playing cards that have infrared ink, which is invisible to the viewer because it's invisible in the visible spectrum, but it stands out really strong to the IR cameras. So we have these cards where you can have virtual characters standing on these retroreflective tiles on the card. And when you put it on the table, the character jumps off the card. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that. And so that camera interface is completely open to the developer. So if you don't like our hacked up OpenCV hand tracking, go grab the Google hand tracking and use it. Or if you want to come up with your own tracking algorithms, you get this 8 megapixel high-speed camera with no motion blur to work with. So it's a joy to work with.
That's cool. So you get the camera stream to the PC, or are you processing on the device?
Yeah, so what's really cool about our system, so in the early days of Cast AR, it was much like the VR systems where you had to have a big macho PC running at, with the biggest NVIDIA graphics card possible. And then, you still suffered from like dropping frames and the image kind of moving around. So what we did on this new system is our Archie board has all the tracking in the headset up in that chip. And so the circuit board finds the game board, orients itself, and then does all of the pose estimation of where you are in the world. And it has this really high-speed feedback loop going. It's like the IMUs are running over 1,000 hertz. The cameras are running really fast. And the way it works is you can plug into a PC or a cell phone, an Android phone. And then what's special is we've decoupled the rendering on the game engine. So the game engine can run asynchronous to the headset. So the game engine can be running at 30 frames per second for part of the time, and it can bump up to 90 frames per second. It can fluctuate, which would be a disaster in a VR system and the old Cast AR system as well. And so the images go up USB-C. We actually transfer all the data up USB super speed over USB-C or USB 3 connector. And then it lands in the headset, and then it takes whatever frame rate, it could be 30 or 60 frames coming up, and then it upscales it to 180 frames per second, and then it locks it to the game board. So it's just buttery smooth when you move your head around. One of my favorite demos, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's something at Valve Software, like we were having these meetings, I'm like, someday in the future, this is how all headsets are going to work. And we had no way to actually do it. And folks were like, you're crazy, you're never going to be able to do it. And just because, luckily for us, Cast AR imploded and a little time went by, there's these new chips that can do this. And so that's what we did for the last 2 years. Like the team just like piled onto it. It's like, if we want to have like a really great experience that never, jitters around or has problems, we got to do this.
But that's, can I say, Jeri, okay, because I mean, as I said, like I was using the Cast AR, and it was, you're right, there were times where you looked too far off the edge of the board and the picture would just, it would distort, or it would go crazy, and getting frame rate dropping was really bad. How did you go, but I mean, you guys are on a trajectory of what the hardware was doing for Cast AR. I mean, you were planning on shipping what you were making, right? How did you go from that direction to not even 2 years later, right, to a completely brand new, different design. Like, I understand that new chips came out, whatever, but that's a complete, like,
We've been busy.
that's a completely redesigned from scratch direction, right?
I mean, there were a lot of really tough things that were solved at Cast AR, like the projectors. Like, these projectors are crazy. They took years and years of development to make these, and that's part of the reason our headset is like so high fidelity, is because we had all of that work done at Cast AR. So if that wouldn't have happened, if we had to start over from scratch, we would have been screwed, right?
Right.
So very fortunate for us that we were able to repair all these relationships and get these designs back. But then when it came to the electronics, we all kind of knew that it was like marginal. So at Cast AR, the way we were trying to solve it was we had this Android puck that you clip to your belt, and we were trying to make Android run real time, which was really, really difficult. Like, Android likes to go off and do garbage collecting all the time, and just like then your video would go all crazy. And
yeah.
So when we reset, we sat down, we didn't like start working immediately. We just sat down and it's like, okay, now we have a reset. We're gonna go out and raise some money, so we have a little bit of time to do this. What do we actually want to do? And so we agreed this was the right direction to go. So instead of, we could have like tried to relaunch the headset 6 months after Cast AR imploded if we would have just kept going down the same trajectory. But instead we're like, okay, the market's not running away from us. Those people that said that, you know, the boogeyman's coming, they're fools. So let's just take the time, go raise some money so that we can do it right. And so that's what we've done. We've just taken the time to do it right, so you don't have to have this like brute force Android thing on your, you know, hanging off your hip. And so we did it, and it's really cool. So, you know, some of the advantages of this new system is that you can run multiple headsets off of one PC, which is super cool. Because, you know, if you can tolerate like variance in just the animation, you know, just hook 2 or 3 headsets up to the same PC and have 3 instances of the game running. If you want to have the ultimate, like the smoothest animation, then maybe you only want to run 1 headset. But if you want to plug into kind of generic Android phone, you have to have this kind of reprojection, upscaling, you know, capability. I hope that answered your question. Sorry, I felt like I went on.
Yeah, I was shocked that it was such a change of direction, I guess, in terms of the hardware and how you implemented the solution. That's all.
I've been dreaming about this forever. Like, I thought that we would have to do it with FPGAs originally, and it's like I could never find a way to afford to put a $50, $60 FPGA in there to do all of this imagery projection. So it never got integrated into the headset. So yeah, I feel very fortunate that time's moved on and we can do this this new system.
Yeah, seems like a lot of things fell into place.
And the thing is, what's hilarious is like talking about Apple and Google and Facebook, like they're all backpedaling now. I think Facebook just said like, maybe we'll have an AR headset in 2024. It's like, wow. I suspect like we're going to evolve as a company. We may do like waveguides and all this other stuff. I mean, I've done it before. I know how it works, but I think this system could ship for a decade, and you know, the cost is going to get cheaper, and you know, more and more people are going to adopt it. More and more games are going to come to it, and like, I'm not worried at all about the market running away from me, because there's just nothing out there that even comes close to this.
It's already quite cheap right now. It's how much is it for 1 glasses and the board?
$2.99.
Oh, that's crazy cheap.
Yeah, it's for as much that's in there. You know what's funny is a lot of people are like, $2.99, that's so expensive, because it's such a
no, it's not.
No, it's not. We put so much work into trying to make the system approachable, and sometimes people look at it as like, oh, it's trivial and easy. It's like, no, that's how you make a great product.
Trivial and easy, yeah.
There's a lot going on inside this thing. There's just a lot packed inside there to make this work.
About my question about the API, if it's open or not, there is only one thing that I ever baked on Kickstarter, and that was, or it was even like only a pre-order for the Oculus Rift. And I got it. It was like,
Yeah.
how much was it? 700 or 800 euros or dollars or something like that. So more than twice as much. And when I got it, I tried it for one day, and I was shocked that they just put on my PC like a closed system, like it's like a console, and I wasn't even able to play like 3D movies because there was no player. You had to purchase like a movie from the store.
Oh, yeah.
Play it. It was so crazy. So I sold it like with profit on eBay instantly.
Really?
But that was my decision at the end, that there was no, like, the Vive had like at least a second party 3D desktop that you could use with it, but Oculus was completely closed, and I was shocked that you can't watch 3D porn on it or something. So.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously there's going to be some closed source stuff. Like we have some trade secrets up in the headset that we want to protect. But as far as like being able to like grab the camera and do stuff with it, or grab the raw head tracking and do stuff with it, or there's a couple things like people wanted. Whenever we show this to people, we try to make the value proposition super simple. Flip the game board open, slip the glasses on, magic, right? But then people's minds go crazy, like, oh, can I plaster the walls with it? And can I do all this crazy stuff, which is fun. Like nerds like us love doing that.
You just showed off back then the complete roll of wallpaper that you could like put somewhere on or something.
Yeah. So we've learned to be more savvy about marketing. So it's going to be really cool for folks, the 100 people in the world that want to wallpaper their wall or do something special with it, but we never talk about it anymore because it just muddies the message. And I think that's important for us to support the hackers, like we all are. We have to have a successful business. We have to sell units. We have to make profit. I have to be able to pay the personnel every single month. And so one of the valuable lessons I learned is like, stay focused. And if you were to go look at our old cast AR, what we talked about versus now, like we're really focused, like hyper focused on tabletop, like maybe even too much, but it's working. Like, I want to make sure that our company has like a user base of some group of people, and we're going to nail that. And then we'll expand that a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and try not to fall into these, traps of trying to do too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think the message from the other players, the Apples and everyone else, is that here's a really cool technology, but no one knows what to do with it. Right. And I think I think we've been getting tons of compliments from folks in the industry, which really makes me feel good. We may be one of the first kind of smaller AR companies come out with like a clean, clear message about what we're doing. It's so easy. So like on the Kickstarter page, I was surprised when it launched straight away, and it was all tabletop, which is a massive industry. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, tabletop gaming is huge.
Yep.
But having come from like knowing a lot of the games that were being developed for Cast AR, and there was some tabletop type stuff there, but there was stacks of other like arcade games and all sorts of things. And seeing none of that on the Kickstarter page, and I think to myself, wow, that's kind of really weird. But then it occurred to me, that's really specific marketing. Like that's, you really focused marketing. But it took me a little while for that to click.
So sorry,
it
Mike.
Didn't harm. It didn't harm. If you look at the numbers, it didn't harm the project.
It's massively helped us. It's massively helped us, and
it's got such potential to do so much more. But you're right, because if you would have tried to say you can do anything on it, anything means nothing. It's the same problem that everyone else has got, right?
Asterix, you can watch 3D porn on it. So
exactly. So all right, I want to come back to come back to this, but I got to tell you a porn story. So way back at Valve, I developed this retroreflective system. You get your own private view into the 3D space. And one of my colleagues, we were talking about how do we market this thing? And he's like, I got the perfect name for you. And it's a huge market. Call it the hide-a-porn for all the teenagers that want to watch porn without their parents knowing. So yeah, that's literally had that discussion. Obviously joking about it, but yeah, sure. You can
Yeah,
watch
sure,
porn.
but it's the biggest industry on the internet.
So hide-a-porn, that could have been the name of the product 7 years ago. I want to discuss, you brought up a good point about how to position your product in the market. And this, I think, 7 years ago, I don't think I was savvy enough to like think through this logically. So, but after going through the Silicon Valley disaster, the whole group of us just sat down and we're like, okay, what can we do? Like, we can go after video games. Like, we can like really improve video games. We can bring all the things that you love about video games to the table. We can bring you off the flat screen to the table. Cool. We can take also all the things that you love about board games and improve those. So you can sit across the table from people, use physical objects and cardboard and plastic, and we can add some graphics to it and sounds and tutorials. And it's like, which side of the spectrum do we want to be on? Or we could be anywhere in the spectrum. So say we go after video games. Who do we have to compete against? Microsoft Xbox, Sony PlayStation, Steam on the PC. That's a lot harder message to get out there to say, like, you're never going to use your Xbox again because you're going to be doing everything on holographic tabletop. And then all of a sudden you start getting compared to what an Xbox can do. It's like, you know, my Xbox can do 4K. You can't do 4K. And so we immediately recognized that was a disaster to try to take on the video game industry. Even though it's $450 billion a market, it's a much bigger market. And even if we could capture a smaller piece of that, it would be huge, right? Yeah. But it was such an uphill battle and it would be so impossible. We would be drowned out. And so we looked at, okay, what the tabletop market, that's $7 billion. It's still really big. What if we can capture a big piece of the tabletop market? It made total sense for our first product, just lean it that direction and then leave the door open for folks that want to do pure video games. And so what we're finding is, like, people are really embracing the board gaming side. We have a strong message that's just cutting through all the noise out there. And then the video game guys are figuring it out as well. So I'm super proud of what we did. And it's like, we didn't close any doors, but we just stayed focused on the message we could get out clearly.
Yeah.
And I think in the industry, you just look at Magic Leap and HoloLens and Facebook and all these companies, they just don't have clear messages. Like, Facebook is constantly talking about the tech. They don't talk about the experience as much, right?
Well, they don't have
I'm not a big Facebook fan. I hate that company. But anyway. No, but I think in a lot of ways, to toot my own horn, we have a better message than the big boys. So
You have a very clear, very clear message. And I think it's, and you're appealing to, I mean, tabletop games have been around a lot longer than video games, right? In some form or another. And they've stayed the same. I mean, video games have advanced with technology, right? But a tabletop game, you know, it's always been, you know, a few people around a table, and whether it's cards or whether it's pen and paper and dice, whatever it is, right? It's been that same experience for a long time. And this is kind of the first thing that's really pushing it into a new realm, you know.
I agree. I totally agree.
I think you've got a lot of the people like 20 years ago as well that were playing these kind of games. They're the people that's got the disposable income as well, who can, you know, drop, you know, like $600 or, you know, for a couple of headsets and, you know, get friends around to play it, you know, and so it's,
you know, So there's some interesting trends in the market, and like now that I'm being a fancy CEO, I have to kind of like observe all of this stuff and try to parse it. So gamers, video gamers, when they were surveyed like 10 years ago, only 40% of the people got online to play games socially. And you mentioned that you play Rocket League. Now, kids, Fortnite, Rocket League, 60% of the people polled that play video games do it socially. And a lot of times, like Fortnite, kids will get into the public lobby just to hang out with their buddies, and they don't even play the game. They just come up with their own crazy rules, and it's a way to socialize. And so there's this really amazing trend of people going from not socializing in gaming to wanting to socialize. And what we unlock is the ability to have that head-to-head gaming experience. So I can look across the table when I blow up your village in my RTS and see the joy of the anguish on your face, which is kind of lost when you're just playing Xbox by yourself. Or we also give you the ability to link your game boards together. So like it's awesome when people come over and play like Camel Up here. But I can never get my friends to come over. You can never coordinate 4 or 5 people to come over. Now we can just link our game boards, and call them on the phone, and just like within minutes we can get in and start playing these games. And the games can be completely holographic, or they can be like a combination of cards and paper and plastic. And so we don't lose those things that you love about board games.
Yeah. But you also, in my mind, you add something, like I'm a very visual person. Like I started off in VFX before I was into games. And like, for me, one of the challenges with like, D&D and playing tabletop games in the past is it's very descriptive, and everyone envisages a completely different picture in their own head, right? This is finally now making everyone see the same image, right? Everyone's experiencing the same visuals, the same, you know what I mean? Like
I'm super excited about that. We're working with Fantasy Grounds, which is this huge online platform for RPGs. They have licensed D&D content, Pathfinder, all the RPGs. But what this unlocks, having this virtual space, is now you can do things like, if you're the DM, you can plan out your whole campaign. You can have all your monsters pre-placed in the virtual space, and you can like put all of these theatrics in place ahead of time. And then when your friends come over, or they link your game board together with them, you can be going through your quest and you can have these theatrics. So you can do things like wave your hand over the game board and be like, an eerie mist settles into the valley. And actually an eerie mist will be coming out of your hands, and they will see that happen as you do it. It's like, wow, you can take it from your mind and actually present it. Because each person gets a unique view into the space. The DM can see where the next monster is coming and what the next trap is, but your friends can't see it until you reveal it. So you can do things like, you use your wand, and we're trying to demonstrate this in the Kickstarter video, is like, the villagers told you not to enter the cave, but you did it anyway. Click, boom, the monster springs up, and like the fog of war lifts, and everyone gets that jump scare, and there's the big sound, and so that's all going to be possible for these folks that the storyteller is going to love this. And then and now you don't have to necessarily be in the same room to do it too. Like when you move your hand through the scene, you can have a virtual representation of your hand be telepresence to your friends, and that fog is still coming out of that holographic version of your hand. Or you take your toy dragon and you put it, or your mini dragon down, you can have it glowing virtual fire. And
there is, I don't know if you know it, there is a channel, or it's the Twitch stream, Critical Role. Yeah, I'm watching it every time on YouTube because I can tune in Twitch, but for that it's too late. But on YouTube, and I really enjoy it. And they are using these figurines, and when they're doing the combat or the battles on the battlefield, and that's actually something that was quite convincing on your Kickstarter video. That I thought, okay, that's actually the selling point that would be a selling point for me, to finally get with my friends back together to do pen and paper role play games, but not have to drive like 100 kilometers and sync up the free time. And I could imagine you could even use it like if like Critical Role would use like cased AR, so even other players could join in and just
Cased
watch.
AR is dead. Till 5.
Yeah, till 5. Sorry.
till 5.
Wow.
Go back as
Sorry.
today.
Oh.
So one of the things that we're going to supply in our SDK is the ability to do compositing. So you can add an external webcam, and we have this prototype now. So you add this external webcam, it does all the compositing. So when you move your dragon into place, you can stream that out to Twitch. So it's going to be a great tool for people spectating. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool when we get this out there and people start to stream their campaigns. So I have a funny story that you guys made me think of. So back in the Cast AR days, we didn't have this refined message. So I'm like, oh, this would be great for tabletop games and like Warhammer. So here in Silicon Valley, they have groups that get together. So I decided to go to one of the local groups, and I show up there, and I've never played Warhammer before. I just thought it looked cool. And I walk in and I'm like, guys, I can completely virtualize your Warhammer experience. You don't need to have your, minis.
Oh, that's insulting.
And they're like
ages to paint them by themselves, don't they?
I mean, that's how naive I was back then. And just like, they almost lynched me. They were like, screw you, get out of here. And so, time has gone by, and I go back and I talk to the folks and be like, okay, I get it. Like, the physical part of your game is what you love, right? Using the tape measure may not be the thing that you love. So what if we made a tool where you put your dragon down and it shows you the hit radius or the line of sight, and they're like, oh, that'd be awesome. Or what if your friends can't come over and you can just have a holographic version of your dragon show up on their board, and they're like, oh, I mean, I can play Warhammer without, getting 10 people together and spending, hours setting up. Like, we learned our lesson. But I thought that was pretty funny. Like, the reception was extremely cold when I suggested that.
Yeah. So how are you going to, I mean, obviously all of this relies on developers, right? Mm-hmm. On people, franchises, people who have IP for franchises, quality of what people distribute. I mean, the early days on VR was like hit and miss. Like, half the games or the experiences made people vomit, right? No one could kind of work out how to do UI properly and stuff. Like, how are you going to keep the quality and the experience good? Because let's face it, I mean, the first thought for anyone that has a bad experience on Tilt 5 is going to be that the device is shit, right? Mm-hmm. No one ever blames the developer, they blame the hardware. So how are you going to kind of make sure everyone's experiences are great?
So one of the things that we're going to provide is a discovery app that helps you kind of boot up the glasses, and that's where we'll curate content and say, like, here's the high quality content, go check it out. And we're not actually selling it through our app. It just points you to Steam or to Google Play so you can get it. So that way we can put our thumb on the scale a little bit and make sure that if something is not good, that it's a little bit less visible, and the things that are good are going to be visible. And so that's going to be important. The other thing is we have spent a lot of time like coming up with partners, like Fantasy Grounds is a great example, that really have an experience that is easy to move over to our system, that's going to be low potential for disappointment. So yeah, I've worked with them for quite a while now to come up with a plan of how we're going to roll out features, and I'm not going to spoil it for their devs that are doing this, but the features are going to be, it's not going to have every single feature that our headset can do. It's going to be a solid foundation of set of features, and they're going to roll in more features. And so that's our strategy, is to make sure that this niche market that we're going after, that we provide a lot of value. the RPG players. And we have one of the agonizing things about working with developers, and I feel very fortunate that the folks at Fantasy Grounds let me talk about what they're doing 6 months in advance before they release, is game developers never want to announce anything before it's done. So there's other genres of games that we're working with developers that I just simply can't talk about because they're just not going to announce until they feel that the experience is good or it's on their timeline. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg, but for the last 2 years, like instead of like me just like burying my head in the sand working on technology, I actually worked on very little of this technology except for the circuit board layout. I've been out just hustling to make the business deals. And so super proud about that. And now that we've done the Kickstarter and it's really going well, like now we're just getting absolutely flooded with developers. We just can't even keep up with it. So that's a good sign.
It is, yeah, very good sign.
Yeah, like any emerging piece of technology, there's that chicken and egg problem. And there's going to be 20 times more fart apps than there are the Fantasy Grounds apps.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's, for the early adopters, that's half the fun. It's an adventure.
You just inspired all the crappy developers to do a fart app.
No.
Right.
I mean, wasn't that, Apple, when they opened up their app store, it was just like fart apps and flashlight apps and like stuff that you could do in a weekend, but it's just the nature of it.
We've had a few questions come through there. Sorry, interrupt. Just one of them was the one that you developed. Did you develop any others and before you settled on the wand, or was it?
Oh yeah, what's funny is people make fun of our wand all the time. It looks like a barbecue lighter, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's not by accident, right? We were designing. Yeah, I mean, we wanted to design a system, and this goes clear back to the Valve days. Like the mission I was given was to like take the whole family and allow the entire family to come together and play these games. And so there were a couple concepts that we kind of latched onto. Everyone knows how to take a stick and poke something, right? Everyone can relate to a magic wand. And so we wanted it to be stick-like and that you could poke things. So actually a lot of the interactions is you take the stick part of it and you jam it into something that's in the virtual space, pull the trigger, and then pick it up and move it around. Everyone knows how to pull a trigger on a barbecue lighter. Everyone knows how to pull a trigger on a hot glue gun. So it's no mistake that we made it look like this. It's so funny. I love the haters online. Just come on out, haters. I love you so much because it just, like everyone thinks that we're total idiots and that they have to like mansplain stuff to me. Like I'm like, I can take it. Yeah, it's like you guys are the fools that you don't realize how brilliant.
It's a soldering iron. 3D soldering.
Yeah, I probably should have done it like a soldering iron for all the makers.
Oh, Jeri, you're holding it at the wrong spot.
Yeah, thank you. It's as soon as we showed the wand off, people started making fun of it. So the first thing we did is we made a little animated GIF. I made an application that is you set things on fire with the wand. So you pull the trigger and a little flame comes off the end. I'm like, okay, you bunch of clowns, here you go. Yeah, we totally.
I have to say,
publicity is good publicity.
Sorry, Lenny, what?
Every publicity is good publicity.
Sure. I have to say, when I got my first, I think I ended up getting 2 cast AR kits, or maybe 3, as they kept progressing. But I remember when I got the very first one, and the wand, and it didn't look like that. It didn't as refined as that. And the first thing I thought was, like, everyone in the office were looking at it and going, "What is this?" Like, everyone's talking about hand gestures and finger gestures, and I'm thinking, why is there a prop? Like, I thought the same thing. Like, what are these guys thinking? Why am I holding this pointy stick? Like, do they think I'm Harry Potter or something?
Yeah,
and
we do.
Yeah, but it didn't take long before it was actually quite cool. It made sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a projection of your finger to point. It was quite accurate to work with, much more accurate than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of virtues to the wand. So everyone dreams of the Minority Report using your hands, and it's really cool when you can reach in and kind of poke things around, but you really want to have buttons and joysticks. You want to be able to have a remote way to point into a virtual space. Like, I don't want to actually have to reach one-to-one to actually touch something in the virtual space. Like, we're used to it. We use mice and touchpads and stuff today to give us a remote control of stuff in our screen, and we want the same thing on the game board. So a lot of our experiences just have a laser pointer coming out of the end of the wand. It was funny when I was at Valve, some of the Oculus guys came through, and I was one of the biggest proponents of wands. I prototyped the first wands at Valve, and the Oculus guys came through, one of their execs, and they're like, people will never want a wand. They're just going to use Xbox controllers and sit on the couch and play games. I'm like, oh, you guys don't get it. You don't get it at all. And, 6-7 years have progressed by. Now everyone's got these goofy looking wands, and people are standing in the middle of the room looking like, waving their arms around crazy. It was just hilarious that they totally ignored wands. That's why Valve came out with a wand way before them and ate their lunch. It's like, we got it.
But it had the tactile, like, you need the feedback of the buttons. You know what I mean? Like,
doing hand gestures like this is just not very satisfying for most things, even though it's the dream everyone has. So yeah, the wand, you immediately gravitate to using the wand for a lot of things.
Yeah. One of the other questions that came from Thomas and Rick was to mention about the resolution being 720p, and was there any future enhancements or changes for that planned at all down the line?
Well, obviously, we're going to increase the resolution over time, but it turns out with the way our system works is 720p is more than enough for board games. And as you get in closer, all those pixels concentrate, in higher density, because you just get closer and closer to the game board. So it's not like a monitor. Like, if you had a 720p monitor today, you'd be like, that's pretty low resolution. But now you have 720p everywhere you look, at whatever angle. And if you get in close, you've got 720p that's just jammed into, that one little game character when you lean in and look at it. So the resolution was a very strategic thing for us. Like, we could have added another $100 to the system and made it way higher resolution. But when we show people the high resolution versus low resolution version, no one could tell.
You're not seeing the pixels. It's you know what I mean? Like, in VR, when you put a headset on, you can see, or it's getting better now, I guess, but originally, you could see the pixels. You could see the light around every pixel. It was really evident. But with this, you don't, because you're not looking at a screen. You're looking through it. You're seeing it around you. You know what I mean? It's blended in. You don't see the pixels at all.
So you're not getting that screen door effect.
Yeah, so the reason our system is effectively higher resolution and looks a lot better for 720p is because we have 100% fill factor. So on a VR system, you have to have insanely high resolutions because the pixels are not on top of each other. So they're just kind of staggered red, green, blue, red, green, blue. And they have pretty poor fill factor between them. So there's gaps between them. We're using liquid crystal on silicon displays, which the red, green, and blue is stacked on top of. So each pixel has almost no space between it. You can't even see the kind of runway between the pixels because it's just so close together. And so we don't have to put 4 and 8K displays in there to compensate for the screen door effect, because we just don't have any screen door effect in our system. And then you just get all the benefits of being able to lean in, look closer, or when you swing your head, you can have a whole new set of 720p pixels off over here, or 720p pixels off over here. So yeah, it's a hard concept to explain to folks because they try to map it to things that they're familiar with, which is just regular screens. Well, this is way different than a regular screen.
Yeah, and there's also you don't get the warping at the periphery because it's not about the periphery, right? You're not in a confined space where you're tilting your head and you're moving your eyes. You're just using your eyes like you normally would look at anything. When you're using your eyes and focusing something like a computer screen, you're not looking to your periphery. But in VR, it forces you to look in your periphery. So you don't have any distortion. You don't have anything. It's just what you see is what you see, just naturally looking. Yeah, it's quite bizarre.
There's some really nice properties to our system. So the lenses, so there's a thing in AR systems and VR systems called the eye box. And so the eye box is the sweet spot where your eye sits. And so if your eyes are wide set or your glasses are crooked on your face or something, and you're out of that eye box, really horrible things happen. And VR is particularly bad at this because they have these single distorted lenses that if you're looking through the edge of the lens, like because it's misaligned on your face, it'll give you headaches and things like that. Because we project out and we have a very flat image, the glasses can actually be like really crooked on your head or tipped up or down, or you can have really narrow or close set eyes, and you have no eye strain compared to like these other systems. And that's one of the things I was talking about the physics problems. Oh, someone said there's a microphone problem. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah, kind of.
It's a little
It's a bit choppy, but yeah.
Let's see. I'll move closer. Maybe that'll help. So one of the problems that these AR systems have is, and it goes back to this physics problem, is the wider you try to make the field of view on these displays that are close to you, the smaller your eye box gets. So the magnification as it goes up, the eye box gets smaller and it's hard to align to your eyes. So if you want to have a pair of glasses that can actually get light into your eyes and wide field of view, it's almost impossible. And so the way you solve that is you make the headsets bigger and you make the eye box bigger. But it's these two things that are constantly fighting against making super lightweight thin glasses, and we just completely bypass that by turning the optics inside out.
And now you gave away your trade secrets, and now everyone's going to do it.
We have a lot of patents around that. That was one of the things that we really wanted. Like we jumped into this asset sale and got those patents out right away because we invented a lot of really cool things, and so there is some defensible things in our system.
Okay.
Not that you can protect against cheap clones coming from overseas, but you can kind of slow them down a little bit.
Sure.
And in the wand, is there a speaker or a vibration motor? Or
There's a haptics motor in there.
okay, yeah.
What's so funny is in the early days of Cast AR, we didn't have much control over the haptics. It was just basically on-off kind of control. And we let people use this and they would be like poking at things and it would be buzzing. And just repeatedly people are like, this is the best haptics I've ever used. And we laugh because we hadn't really put any work into the haptics yet. And it was just because it was so closely tied to the visual experience that people like perceived very simple haptics as much more than it was. And we've improved it a lot since. So now they're going to be.
Cool.
David Watts asked, is there headphones inside the glasses?
There is. We have speakers. The speakers right here. There's 2 ports that point towards your ears, so you don't cover your ears up, which we felt that was super important. Then there's microphone as well, so you can get all your game audio. You can also do full telephony, so you can chat with your friends, and so that's all part of our desire to make it feel like you're in the same room, even though you're not. And so that was super important for us to add. And then, of course, the microphone's available to the developers if they want to do speech recognition or use some of the open source stuff to do that. Feel free. Go ahead.
If everyone's watching, there's a picture on the Kickstarter page that has a complete breakdown of all the different things inside the glasses. So the cameras and the microphone and the speakers and where they all are. There's like an exploded view. So
yeah, it's one of my favorite pictures because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
So we're super excited about the traction that we've got on the Kickstarter. Of course, we want to see if we can get that accelerated more. So we're just getting into the realm where manufacturing is going to be a little bit easier for us. So we're hoping that we can land the Kickstarter at 2 or 3 times where it is now, if possible. As you guys know, manufacturing things, if you make 5 of them, is really difficult. But if you can get the numbers up, then it becomes a lot easier. And so far, we've had to break the manufacturing up into, or the shipping up into, we have a June shipment. That's completely, I think every single tier is full. We have a July shipment. That one's almost full. And then we're going to have to move into an August shipment just to kind of spread things out so we don't face plant hard trying to like ship out thousands of units.
Sure. How many in total is it? Are you allowed, can you say? I mean, obviously we can see how many backers, but we don't know what those backers have necessarily done. Like, do you know how many?
Oh, I missed what you asked.
Oh, I was curious to know. Like, we can see on the Kickstarter how many backers there are, but we can't tell how many units that translates into, because obviously you've got some people who are buying multiple, you know, and you know, different packs have different numbers of units. Do you know roughly how many units you're up to now?
Yeah. Roughly on average, it's about 2 units per person that's been backing. So, you know, we're about 4,000 units, which is a pretty nice number for manufacturing. So we've been working with a manufacturer for a couple of years. So when Cast AR imploded, we had these manufacturers lined up, and they were not happy at all. Not at all. So anyway, we get the assets back, and I had to go repair these relationships with the manufacturer. And there's one of our manufacturers based out of Japan, and I had a pretty decent relationship with the president of the company, but he was pissed. And so he, it took 6 months of Skype calls with him wagging his finger at me like, you failed. I don't trust you anymore. You got to prove to me. And so I had to present business plans to him. I had to have all these phone calls. I had to get like chewed out like on a monthly basis for like 6 months to repair the relationship. But we got that put back together. And then they helped us like repair our relationship with the actual manufacturing facilities. So that could have killed the company. If I hadn't repaired those relationships, then we would have no way to actually deliver these units. But now we have a full production line, you know, ready to go, and project management around it. It's really exciting. It's like I just can't believe I pulled it off. I mean, I shouldn't take all the credit. Our team pulled it off. But I took the blunt of a lot of angry manufacturers waving their fingers at me.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
Must have
respect
very
for
thick
that.
skin now.
So that's most of the questions I think we got through. If anyone else has got any others to mention or raise.
I hope people will consider backing the project. It really is good. If you look at the through the lens video, like we wanted to be very honest, so you can actually see what it looks like when you hold a camcorder up and move the glasses around, which is not easy to do, to capture good footage, like, you know, trying to hold everything. And we have a bunch of testimonial videos in there. So we've been showing at big trade shows. So we went to Gen Con, showed to like 1,000 people. We went to Penny Arcade, 1,000, this XOXO conference. And we wanted to make sure that people knew that like we're for real before we launched this Kickstarter. So.
No, I definitely advocate everyone go and have a look. It's been put in the chat a couple of times, and we'll make sure it's in the description as well.
And follow us on our Twitter account. When we started the company, we decided that we were going to never like be super corporate. And so various people in the company circulate through running the Twitter account at different times. So you get a wide variety of humor in there. And we're pretty blunt, right? We want to be anti-corporate, you know. I don't think we've dropped an F-bomb in there like I did on this podcast, but that's kind of like, we want to be like raw and genuine, and sometimes it'll get us in trouble. And, but yeah.
Two more questions that have just come in there. One of them was from Thomas regarding the 110 degrees field of view, and said, is that hard-coded into the projector optics?
It is, yeah. So let me show you through the optics here. This is actually a little bit older design. The new one's a little smaller. So the light actually starts back here. There's red, green, and blue LEDs. There's a bunch of combiners that combine that light, and then cruises.
Screen.
Whoops. Gosh, it cruises down this direction. It goes through a bunch of polarizers and light homogenizers that even out the light, and it goes down to a polarizing beam splitter, and then it goes back to a liquid crystal display that's mounted right here. And then it goes back through that polarizing beam splitter, and then it comes out this really amazing projection optics system here. This little tiny lens is crazy wide field of view, really high MTF, which is modulation transfer function. So it means like through really tiny optics, we have really high resolution. So you actually can see the pixels really sharply. Plus, part of the magic of our system is the small aperture. So in this little tiny space, we had to get all the light going in the right direction and collimated and going in a straight line so they could bounce off of all these reflective surfaces and then make it through this little tiny aperture. And as it goes through that aperture, that keeps these ray bundles of light for each of the pixels tightly packed, and they go out to the retroreflector, then they do a 180-degree turn and come back to your eyes. And that small aperture means that the pixels are in focus wherever you are. So if you take the wand, for instance, and you spawn some object like a cube on the end of it, and you bring it up towards your face, you can actually focus on the tip of the wand, and you can focus on the virtual object at the same time, which no other AR system can do that right now. And if you have your wand close to the game board and you spawn that same virtual object, you can focus just the same, because the pixels are always in focus because of that small aperture. People that are familiar with photography, it's kind of like we turned a camera inside out. So when you open the aperture up on your camera, you have a very shallow depth of focus. And when you stop it way down, you have focus out really far, almost to infinity. And so we use that technique to make sure that the everything's in focus. So you're not having to strain. VR systems, other AR systems can't do that because the free aperture is huge. Like a VR system, that aperture on the lens is that big. So it has one super narrow depth of focus. And so that's why some people get headaches using VR systems, because you're having to even though a virtual object is close to your face, you're having to fake your eyes out to focus way off into the distance, wherever that really shallow depth of focus is. And it's hard. You can't just take a VR system or an AR system with a micro display close to your face and make a small aperture. You would never be able to line it up to your eye. You'd have such a small eye box that you'd have to have bolts in your head or something to keep the headset still, and then little thumb screws to align it. I've made AR systems that were super wide field of view with near eye projection, but you just had to, they were so fiddly that you could never sell them. The best AR system that I ever designed was direct retinal scanning. So it was red, green, blue lasers scanning right on your eyes, and it was synchronized to the video card. And so we raced the beam down as the graphics was rendered. And so I did all the synchronization, and part of the optics on it is absolutely beautiful. But the whole contraption was giant. We called it the telescope. It was probably the optics was that big and stuck off the end of your face that far. So someday we'll figure out how to cram that all into a small pair of glasses.
Cool. Sounds awesome.
I would be scared to let a laser print on my retina if the ray stuck on one place and I get a pixel.
It's dangerous. It really is dangerous. We were taking a risk doing that because to put enough photons as you're scanning really fast, it's like a 7 nanosecond pulse for each of these pixels. So you have to really hit it hard just to get enough photons out in 7 nanoseconds. But if something's stuck on and the scanning were to stop, and the laser driver failed for some reason, you could permanently damage your eyes with that. So that's just another reason why we haven't seen Apple and all these guys come out with like, laser scanning near eye displays. It's just a lot has to be solved.
I bet if you announced that you were going to do it, it wouldn't take long for someone else to jump in saying, we're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I have in my home lab, I have multiple optical tables. So I've been working with holographic combiners for quite a few years. So I'm constantly pushing on that to see if I can, have a breakthrough with holographic combiners. I think that has some potential to make a wide field of view display. I won't give away what I think. I think there's a clever way to do it. I haven't actually been able to achieve it yet, but the glasses would look a little weird, but maybe people would accept this new weird looking glasses.
Cool. One of the final questions we had was from David Watts for yourself, which was, what is your favorite personal victory in Cast AR or Tilt 5?
Oh, that's a good question. I think this Kickstarter is it. I can't even start to express how much work went into this and how scary it was and how we didn't know if it was going to work at all and how awesome it was to see like the first day or so, like $500,000 come in. Because we planned and we worked and we tried to like warm everybody up before the Kickstarter so that we weren't giving away too much, but we had enough excitement. And I think we executed really well on that. And I think we did it in such a genuine way that I'm super proud of that. I think maybe my second one is to be able to repair all of the manufacturing relationships. That was so hard. It was so hard. I mean, it could have destroyed the company if I couldn't have done that. And maybe the third one is to have to put together our content pipeline. I know people haven't been able to see the whole content pipeline because of the nature of how developers work, but I'm super proud. I've been hustling, and there's some really cool stuff that we have announced, and there's some really cool stuff coming. So, yeah. That
sounds awesome.
Yeah, cool to hear.
Thank you guys for letting me like ramble so much. I mean, I know we've been all over the place.
Yeah, thank you that you took your time. Yeah, that was we had the suggestion to invite you to a MakerCast before your Kickstarter even. So we talked about this before, and then when I thought, oh, I should just invite Jeri. And then your Kickstarter came on, and I thought, okay, you are totally busy and wouldn't have the time to join such a casual stream here. But we are glad that you did. It was quite interesting to get the insight.
Yeah. I hope I didn't come across too marketing.
No, you didn't.
I have gone a little bit to the evil side, and I hope you don't mind that I dropped a couple F-bombs along the way.
No, that's
all good.
Jeri, you can tell us how much of a CEO you are now, right? But sorry, you're all maker.
I got there.
No, you're all maker. It doesn't matter. You can say the CEO word as many times as you want.
Wait. I know it. I'm surprised this hasn't come up in the chat. When is the second video of my magnetic loop antenna going to come out? And the answer is I don't know. I'm too effing busy with trying to craft Kickstarter campaigns. I got into ham radio recently. It's super fun.
There was a question about ham radio.
Jim asked
I remember you had the last videos before the Kickstarter was about the antenna and ham radio. Yeah.
So all of my mentors when I was a kid were ham radio operators. I lived in this small town, and no one did electronics there except for the ham radio guys. And so I would hang out with these guys at the library. They would take me over to their ham shack, and they would show me, radios and show me how to do various things. And they always wanted me to get into ham radio. But, as a teenager, I was too busy doing other things. I was having fun with my computers. I didn't want to learn Morse code. And it's like, whatever. now as an adult, I started getting kind of nostalgic about that, and I decided to go look at what the heck was going on with ham radio, and I was like blown away. Like there's like so many cool things you can do with ham radio now. There's like all these digital things, like there's these slow scan TV and fast scan TV and satellites and tons of computer things that you can do. And so I got hooked, and it's been super duper fun. I think the thing that I'm most addicted to is the HF bands, which are these lower frequency bands where weird atmospheric things will happen. Then all of a sudden the band will open up and your signal will propagate thousands of miles for like 10 minutes. And then it closes. And you just kind of have to be hunting for these events to happen. And it's super fun. And I do it all with the digital mode. So I can sit there and watch a movie and drink a beer and just click a button and then kind of watch the propagation kind of like magically happen.
Cool.
Wow, you're in full nerd then.
I know. Full on nerd. I recommend it. Like people should check out ham radio. It's pretty fun.
But you need licenses though to do it, like you.
Yeah, it was pretty trivial. I mean, I was surprised. I did like there's like in the United States there's like 3 levels. I studied for the middle level because I knew I would get through the kind of basic level. I went to the testing event, and I showed up late. The guys were like, "Oh, you're late. And I told them I wanted to go through the first 2 levels, and they're like, "Oh, usually it takes people like a lot longer to get through these." I'm like, "I think I can make it." And so I just cruise through the first test, pass it. They give me the second test. I cruise through that one and pass it 100%. And they're like, "Oh, do you want to do the extra license?" And I'm like, I haven't studied for the extra. And the extra license is actually pretty difficult. It's got a lot of electronics theory in it. And so I'm like, well, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. And so I had to dig deep to remember like, oh yeah, Smith charts. I haven't looked at a Smith chart in a while. And which side is the impedance? And but I ended up passing that too. So I was at this testing thing was at a ham radio event, and so the word started leaking out about this lady that came through and just like aced the test. And I actually had missed some problems along the way. Like on the first test, I missed one, and I missed quite a few on the hard test. But the story got bigger and bigger as the weekend went along. It's like she got a perfect score, and she did it in like 5 minutes. And
yeah, the electronics parts shouldn't be that difficult for you, since you're even for people who didn't watch your earlier videos. Jeri had like wafers and made own transistors in the kitchen.
Yep.
Wow.
Took me 5 years to figure out how to do that. So that's the kind of stuff I like to do on my YouTube channel. Like, I still have things in there that who knows if I'll ever figure out how to achieve it and make a YouTube video. But I could go and do like I'm forgetting the names, like the really stupid, simple projects that they just churn out all the time. I could do that, make a lot of money on monetization, but I choose
YouTube subscriber counters.
LED projects.
Yeah. I mean, that's the frustrating thing about my YouTube channel. Like sometimes I'll just randomly do an art project and it'll get like 1 million views, and it was like blinking an LED or something. And then I'll do something like magnetic logic, like it was this kind of weird.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, that was the first time I saw it on your channel. The first time about this technology that is completely off. So nobody knows about it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, magnetic logic, it was one of these things that I'd heard about. It's like, before transistors came along and they were making mainframe computers, they're like, well, how do we make a solid state computer? And like, they actually made a computer out of magnetic logic. So ferrite cores wound the correct way. And so I found all this old literature. I spent months researching it. I found like the right ferrite, and I figured out how to work with it. And just like hundreds of hours into this, I make this like nice condensed little video of like, here it is, like, here's your 10-minute introduction to magnetic logic. And like, it gets 1,000 views.
I was one of the 1,000 people that
Thank
watched
you.
it.
Thank you. But it's still worth it. It's still worth it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
sure.
an internal self, it's a journey that I like to do.
Cool.
Well, thanks
Well,
for having me.
No, thank you very much for being on, and thank you very much for everyone else as well. I think we're kind of wrapping up to a natural progression and end here, I think. So I think there's some links being put down below for the for your Discord as well, for the Tilt 5. So if anyone wants to discuss more and ask some more questions, I think that...
Come on out, trolls. Come on out. Like, you can't throw anything at me that's not just going to bounce off. Like, it's entertaining for us.
Affiliate links for barbecue lighters are in the description.
Yeah. No, barbecue lighter is like the most benign thing people call it. Like, there's a lot of other raunchier things you can.
Yeah,
it's got a shape to it. It goes along with Haida porn.
Yeah.
What?
That's for the last MakerCast.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, we had some kinky stuff there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what demonetization?
Yeah.
Yeah,
really?
it was. Yeah, Brian got like the yellow monetization icon for the stream instantly.
You may want to go and like re-edit this and pull out some of the stuff I said.
No, that's totally fine.
We're gonna do a highlights reel, Jerry. again. Cool.
Right, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna say our goodbyes.
Indeed.
Colin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you very much for everyone attending, guys, and to the viewers and bitluni as well. Appreciate coming on my little channel. It's been fantastic. You brought a few bitluni, I'm sure.
And you guys should subscribe to his channel. Don't
Yeah,
leave the
sure.
channel
Don't
without
forget,
subscribing.
Thank you very much. But yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and yeah, that's it now. If anyone else will say anything else, now's the time. You're all good.
I'm on the Hacker Day Super Conference. I'm giving the talk. It's official now. So
it's official. It's out
we
now.
can shake hands, drink beer, and do stuff.
I'm going. So see you there.
Cool. Oh.
Make sure you heckle. You got to heckle him.
Yeah, I have to prepare it early because
I've been learning
Right.
the good heckles from all the trolls, so you better watch out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks everyone, and I'll end it there now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.